I'm actually really excited for everyone to get to sit in on this conversation, as part of what we're trying to do here is share in conversation format some really deep ideas. And so this time we got to talk about tefilla, about davening, a little bit more about the structured format that we have and what we're supposed to do, because we spend so much time doing it. We spend so much time engaged, on a daily basis, whether it's a man or a woman. But as Jews, we spend a lot of time davening, and so it's nice to at least start the conversation. I got to spend some great time with Reb Yussie, and I really think that we touched on some deep ideas and some also practical advice in terms of connecting to davening and understanding what it is that we're doing. So I hope you enjoy. You go through different periods of life and different relationship kind of interaction with tefillah, but in the end of the day, it's a major part of what we do.
Sure.
It's 3 times a day and on Shabbos and stam individual personal tefillah.
Right.
And it always, when we talk about the structure of tefillah, and you look at Shemona Esrei as the culmination, and obviously knowing the basics of the ideas of the introductory paragraphs in Shemona Esrei and then the end brachas. When you look at the bulk, the middle, the meat of Shemona Esrei, it almost looks like what we're doing is giving Hashem a laundry list of what we need. And in some way, the more we say it, the more he knows we need it. There's a lot of pitfalls, kind of you come into it and you could say well, I have to convince Hashem that this sick person needs to get better. Is there something that we're meant to be focused on as we say those, especially the meat of Shemona Esrei? There's something that we're meant to be focused on as we say it, and are we kind of? I always had a feeling I was distracting myself by asking for things as opposed to doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. Or you get the same question when you say Tehillim. You say Tehillim for a sick person. Okay, so are you just adding schusim? Is that what you're doing? Are you you think oh, now I'm being a good boy, so Hashem now there's a reason to make this person better? Are you changing Hashem's mind, convincing?
Mm-hmm.
You daven really hard for something. It's okay, so now I put some energy into it. Now Hashem's convinced. Okay, you're right. I wasn't going to make them feel better, or your parnasa was going to be really hard, but now it'll come easy because you asked really nicely. Is that what's going on? What are we doing?
Okay, there's a lot there. Basically, the question, I guess, is that what's davening, right? What's happening and how to go about doing it, and the different, like you said, different experiences of it. It's like this. You said Shemona Esrei is the main body of tefillah. That's where it's all leading towards, right? So you sort of, you're working way up from Birchas HaShachar, slowly but surely getting to Shemona Esrei. And then once Shemona Esrei is complete, you're sort of absorbing that through Asher Valtzion all the way to Elena. So you're right. But it's interesting is that the term that we have, that the most amongst Ashkenazim in particular, that we call that part of the prayer is Shemona Esrei. Shemona Esrei is not a good description of what it is. Shemona Esrei is what you're saying. It means 18, right? Because it's 18 brachas. A 19th was added, Lamal Shinim, later relative to the other 18, but that's a description of what davening looks like, what you're supposed to say, and that's true. That's what you're supposed to say, but those 18, 19 brachas that you're saying are really meant to be contained within an atmosphere that is more the essence of what tefillah is. So there's another word that Vayachenu b'nei Sfarad, really they get more to the point with it, is that they don't call it Shemona Esrei predominantly, it's called Amida. Amida, what does Amida mean? It means to stand, right? Amida is a more correct term if a person wants to really define what is the atmosphere of tefillah, that within that you're then saying Shemona Esrei. So Amida doesn't just mean a physical position that I'm standing. Amida means that I'm standing in the presence of. In a certain sense, the atmosphere that tefillah is contained within is, I guess you can say, like a reorientation of the entire universe that you exist in. If I were to approach davening the following way, it would be a little bit of a mistake. I wake up in the morning, whatever it is, I get out of bed. Okay, I'm in the world that I'm used to. I get in the car. Okay, in the car, go to shul, get up. Okay, put on Tachlis tefillin. I'm now davening. The world that I'm functioning in I have not changed my way of thinking about it. I'm still in the regular world that I woke up in.
One of those things.
One of the things that I'm doing.
In the order of the day.
Right. So it's Shemoneh Esrei. Right. These are just the 18 brachas that I'm doing at this moment, in this particular time. But that's not, Shemoneh Esrei, we take 3 steps back and we take 3 steps forward. Why? Like, I'm here, and let me just start. No. Because what I need to do in order to daven is to really reorient myself and to redefine what space I'm existing in. What space am I existing in? And it doesn't just mean the particular Dalet Amos. That's why in Halacha we find this, right? That Shemoneh Esrei is very sensitive to the space that you're in, both in terms of being a clean space. No one else is allowed to go into your space. So obviously on a practical level, that's out of respect for davening, and no one should interrupt you. But it's deeper than that. Everything in Halacha is reflective of something that's deeper going on in the soul. The fact that Shemoneh Esrei is extremely sensitive to the space that it's being said in is because the essence of davening, the soul of davening, is not about the Shemoneh Esrei. It's about the environment that Shemoneh Esrei is being said in. Where do I exist? Where do I exist? Am I existing in my world, and I'm just trying to communicate with some other place, and instead of having a technology to do it, so we have a sitter, and that's how we communicate to some other world. That's not, maybe that could be the mindset for Pesukei Zimra. Maybe that could be the mindset for Birchas HaShachar, where I'm still kind of in my zone and I'm trying to work my way up. And I'm trying to sort of navigate through the jungle of this world to try to find some, lifeline, some truth hanging from some distant place. But Shemoneh Esrei is altogether different. Shemoneh Esrei is, I am no longer in the same space that I was before. I'm in the same address. Of course, I'm not being transported physically anywhere else. But what's happening is that the place that I'm in, the planet that I exist in, which is called planet Earth, is altogether changing. This is not a place that Hashem happened to create, and obviously I depend on Him, so now I have my laundry list of things that I'm asking. No. Every single thing that I mentioned in Shemoneh Esrei is not just a request, it's solidifying this truth, which is that entire sugya of Atachon Das, and that entire sugya of Refuah and Parna, you name it, all the things, it's all within God's world. It's all within God's world. And that's why, they're not even called 18 tefillas, right? They're called 18 brachas. Mm-hmm. Because a bracha means trying to, the word bracha, Rishonim say the word bracha comes from the word brecha, which means a pool, a place. It's literally a place that, let's say, water concentrates, right? Water is mayim, but the place that water concentrates is called a brecha. So the 18 brachas of Shemoneh Esrei are really redefining the space that the waters of Parnasa and the waters of Yeshua and the waters of Shidduchim concentrate in. It's about redefining the place altogether.
So you go through the rest of your life. You're like
it's
after you daven, you go to work. Right. So
right.
After you daven, then that's a different world. That's the world of you got to go to work and you got to go type on the computer and something happens, right? Like numbers show up, right? But davening is your realign. Is it like a realignment of like? Is it an effort or an exercise in emunah, in a belief, in our belief that I may do that and I may have that world, but I know that this is the truth, that Parnasa comes when
it's more than just that. That's a basic level of emunah the person always has to have, that everything I have comes from Hashem. We're talking about something different. We're talking about a deeper level of emunah. We're talking about that the entire space my entire existence is part of Hashem's universe. It's not a finite, human, earthly universe that's being governed and guided by an infinite being. My entire world that I exist in and that I function in is still part of the Rebbeinu Shalom's Malchus. Not just being guided by him and being watched over by him. We begin to say Hashem svasei tiftach ufi yagid. Hashem, open up my lips, and I'll say your praises. I mean, it's up to you. Open your
say it.
Hashem svasei tiftach, right? Hashem svasei tiftach means no. The entire mindset of Shemoneh Esrei is Rebbeinu Shalom. Everything, not just comes from you, but mamish, everything is you. Everything is still a part of your universe. What's happening after davening is, there is a descent. There is a descent. The universe and my relationship with the world around me does shift from moving from just being part of Hashem's world, and I'm just an empty vessel to receive His light. I'm just a breich. I'm just and everything is just a pool to, a space within which Shefa comes. After Shemoneh Esrei, you then go down. The world then is a place that you have to conquer and you have to go, you have to do. But you're sort of sent on a mission from davening. Like davening charges you with that mission and that shlichus of going into this world that now is going to seem independent and self-contained and running, being run by like algorithms and mathematics and physics and the rules of nature. And my job is to be a shliach of that world of tefillah and to go into this other world of mathematics and statistics and teva and ishtadlus and so on, and to somehow be in that place, but to still have one foot in the world of davening. To still have one foot in the world of davening. And to do all my hishtadlus. But to know that all the hishtadlus that I'm doing is just to create an environment in which the things that I need in my life are coming without it being a nes nigla. Mm-hmm. That's really all I'm trying to do, that it shouldn't have to be a nes nigla. Like, you're just doing with your hands. Where's your head? I'm still rooted in tefillah. That's what Reb Yochanan, the Gemara says, Reb Yochanan said, Halavai, sheyispal adam kol mikol. Halavai, a person should daven all day long. Doesn't mean mamish to sit and daven all day long, but even though we can't daven all day long, but it is true that we have to hold on to that. In the Rizal taught, it's a big principle in his writings that as a result of Galus, and it's really as a result of Galus, the place that you're existing in tefillah does not stay with you after tefillah. There is a yerida, so to speak. There is a descent, that the world b'chalal like sort of collapses a little bit, where it goes from that place of being still part of God's universe. Mm-hmm. And that's what, for example, right in the beginning of Karbanis, for those that everyone should say it, but by Karbanis, there's a line that we...
That's what those pages are?
Yeah, exactly. So there's a line over there that it starts with, Atuhu Achlein Evroilam, Atuhu Mishin Evroilam. Hashem, you are God before the world was created, and you're God after the world was created. That's the opening line to all of davening, because that's your objective with davening, is that the beginning of davening, before davening starts, you're in your universe and you're a mammon. But the concept of davening is that now I'm reorienting myself, that the entire universe I'm functioning in is God's place. And you're right, there's a certain level of passivity that will come, and sort of even inactivity that comes from realizing that, and that's why it's amida, it's standing, and it's just being present and being bottled to that. And so after davening is over, like the Rizal said, there's Yerida, now you go and you have to work. But the work and the ishtadlus that you put in the rest of the day has to now be tempered and be sort of softened. And the lachatz of how much is at stake, of whether or not...
How much is depending on my shoulders.
Exactly. It has to be a little bit lessened because of davening. So it's a siman of whether a person is davening well, davening properly, is not whether or not the rest of the day they still have to do a shtadlus, or if they're stressed. The question is like how much. If there's any, because you're going to have to do a shtadlus, because like the Rizal said, the phenomenon of galus is that after davening is over, the world like sort of goes back, and we're no longer in that space of tefillah, and that's obviously what the Rebbeinu Shalom wants of us right now. But the question is the roshim, is the residual effect of davening still carried with you? This is the oimek, this is the depth of what the Gemara says in Brachas. It's a Mishnah that the Chasidim Harashainim, the early Chasidim, they would have an hour to prepare themselves for davening. Davening would be an hour, and they would have an hour after to sort of settle in. What's the hour after? Chana, I understand, an hour to prepare, an hour for davening, I get it. What's the hour after? The hour after is allowing that residual effect of davening to really settle in, and to then when you move out of that space, the memory is still strong.
You take more of it with you into the rest of the day.
How do you know if you're taking more of it with you? Are you a little bit less anxious than you would have been? Doesn't have to be a lot. It's like, they say, I can't remember who it was, I can't remember which tzaddik it was, one of the tzaddikim. He said that when he was young, he had a chavrusa, and they both planned on becoming like big tzaddikim. And he said, I became who I became. But he said, but my friend, like, he's a good yid, but like, so what's the difference? He said, we both like davened. We both learned. And when we davened, we were up here, right? And then what happened? So we finished davening, we finished learning, we came back down. My friend went back down to where he started. So every day he's just going up and down. Me, I also went down. But I went down, but I landed a little bit above from the day before. And slowly but surely, gradually, you build yourself up. So it's not so you can't hold on to davening like that. Right. It's not possible.
You can't live in there's no such thing. This is galus. Stress-free life doesn't. It's
the reality of galus. But it's chaval for someone who's like, I'll give you an example. It's like someone who's on vacation, right? And like on vacation, all they're worried about is pre-vacation and post-vacation. Then they ruin their vacation, right? It's like davening is like vacation. It's like you could stop feeling the worry of that, like everything's on your shoulder. Everything is on your shoulder if it's your world. But if this is God's world, and He has plans that are bigger than me, and I'm just trying to be a part of that system. I'm just trying to be a part of it. So then I don't have to worry about it. And then, okay, I try to absorb that experience as much as possible, and then I go the rest of the day. And yes, of course there's a descent. Of course, that's expected. But maybe it's not as bad as it was without davening.
That's why it's like such a stira to have. It's not. No one's anti-cell phones. Just doesn't make sense to be connected to your work in the middle of davening. It make two different worlds.
I'll tell you something. It's more than that. When it comes to and don't get me wrong, I appreciate the irony that obviously we're two human beings talking to each other, there's cameras and videos. I get the irony of it. But, like technology is fake. Technology is not real. So davening, so I'll tell you like this, so I'm describing like these two worlds, right? There's reality as it is in the lens of davening. And then there's the reality as it's in the lens of, so which one is real? Which one is the most? Okay. When it's davening has to be real, That's the deepest truth, is that we're still part of Hashem's universe. So like, when you bring technology into davening, it's like, it's a fake universe. It's like the opposite of, davening is supposed to be real, right. And it's like all of a sudden,
right.
It's like unbecoming of the world of davening. It's like davening is a moment where the universe that I live in is finally able to be itself, without going through the game of shtadlus and the game of like it's all The truth is, it was Rabbanu Shalom, right? Then all of a sudden, we bring in fakeness. It has to be real. Davening has to be real.
I hear. I think I always had this theory. I don't know if it's true. I always had this theory, kind of looking at how we're set up and how our educational system is set up. I always felt like, I don't talk for myself. I felt like I learned how to daven way before I could appreciate what davening was, or even consider appreciating what daven was. By the time I was advanced in my, maturity enough to even consider paying attention to this davening thing, I was already an expert davener, at least at making the noises of davening, right? And I don't think you can't overhaul the system. I mean, this is how it is. You got to teach kids what it is that they do. But how do you, for kids, you want to infuse. I'm not with them every day when they daven, my own kids, but there are times when we're davening together. You're on vacation and you're not in shul, or you're Corona was like a perfect time. You could show your kids how to daven, and you could daven with them a Sunday morning for places that don't have school. But like, what? How are you supposed to give that over to them? Any meaning in here when you're talking? You're supposed to. You water it down for them, you give them the basic points, and then you allow them to grow into it. But it's almost like they're getting ahead of themselves. They're davening, by the time they get to fourth grade, fifth grade, they're saying this big, massive sitter, and the appreciation factor they have for the fine points of davening is not there.
Well, I'll tell you this. First of all, I mean, it's not the system. I mean, that's really halach. I mean, there is a concept of chinuch. So we have no choice but to be mechanech our children in mitzvahs. And that's true. It's true for davening in particular because it's avodah shebelev. But every mitzvah, we get used to doing it as a kid. So, you shake luv and esrog as a kid. So now you're just an adult shaking luv and esrog. So what luv and esrog means very often, unfortunately, might stay the same as when you were a kid. Now, so what are you supposed to do? Wait till a person has all the meichen in the world? It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. You can't wait till shake luv and esrog and only after you know all the secrets of luv and esrog. Then you're never going to shake it. And by the way, you can't know the secrets of luv and esrog until you shake it, right? So it's a catch-22.
Okay.
You can't appreciate davening. To appreciate davening and to be in that mindset, it takes time. But you can't ever get into that space without actually davening.
Okay.
You have to actually daven. So it is a struggle, but I'll tell you like this: I don't think to teach children how to daven. I don't think it's not about davening. It's davening is an expression of this level of emunah and this level of relationship with the Ribono Shel Olam that is overarching. It's not. It comes out. It becomes highlighted 3 times a day, like I said, where the environment changes and so on. But it's a general, it's something that's cultivated over an entire lifetime, and so I think as parents, I can only just as a suggestion, I don't know, as parents, it's sort of like always a 2-pronged attack, right? Attack is the wrong word, but the 2-pronged approach, fine. So one way is to speak, to speak to our children. Language is a language that is conducive to this type of tefilla mindset, of to talk about Hashem, to talk to Hashem in front of our children, even if you have to fake it, right, a little bit, and to make Hashem something that's real, not just a concept. Again, that's the difference between the world of davening and the world outside of davening. The world outside of davening, Hashem, what's real is this place, and Hashem is a concept. The world of davening means Hashem is real, and everything else is a concept, And so the more we make Hashem real in our children's lives, the more automatically that's the environment that's necessary to cultivate tefillah. And then when it comes to specifically davening, so obviously they have to do what they're told in school, whatever sitter, you know what I'm saying?
Never go against that.
No, for sure. I'm saying with the mechanech, they know where a kid's holding. But if they have the opportunity to see their father daven, like if we daven, the kids will see, if
in a real way.
If they see that we're in a different place.
Right.
If we see that we're in a different place,
Probably seeing that you're a different person afterwards.
That
there's a rosham of the davening made on you.
They know.
Like 1 second, you're just davening and now you're Now you're upset about this at a level that doesn't make sense. There's a disconnect.
Right.
Right.
And
They have to see
they'll
there's a
pick
change.
up on
There's
that.
something.
They'll pick up on that. They'll see if the person, with time, the person's more calm. And by the way, what's wrong with telling the kids that and say, listen, I had a really hard day at work today. A lot of things that really, could have made me nervous. But you know what I decided? I reminded myself of when I was davening Shachris. And when I'm davening Shachris, I'm remembering that Hashem is in charge of everything and everything is in His hands and everything's going to be okay. And I reminded myself of that. And you know what? I wasn't as nervous today as I could be. So first of all, when a kid hears that, first of all, davening is real. Davening actually changed his life. And number two, they're actually getting a skill that they can use, right? Because kids are stressed out in school. School just started, things get stressed out. And so let them also go to that place of reminding themselves that Hashem is everything. And ultimately, that the Rebbe Hashem is in charge and everything's going to be okay. And that's the menuchas hanefesh and the yeshiva das that comes from really allowing tefillah to take hold of a person's nefesh and to be in that place again. And there's going to be, and then you leave davening. Mm-hmm. But again, the Reishim has to be there.
And giving that over to them, that there's an experience that's going on during davening. I mean, it's say the words, don't say, like at your age, it's not which paragraph did you say, which kavana did you have. It's like you have to understand there's an experience going on here, and you're traveling somewhere, right. You're traveling to the real world.
Chinuch always contains two parts. There's, like every mitzvah, there's the actual training that a kid has to have in order to fulfill the mitzvah technically properly when he becomes of age. But then there's also like Yiddishkeit. Mm-hmm. In halacha, there's such an idea. Rishonim talk about this, that there's two levels of chinuch. There's giving over guidance in terms of mitzvahs, but then there's also giving over Yiddishkeit. Now, davening is one of those technical mitzvahs that's very much bound to Yiddishkeit. The essence of davening is speaking to the heart of Yiddishkeit. The essence of Yiddishkeit is the whether a person is, are you fully committed to Yiddishkeit or not, is like, answer that question. What universe do you live in? Like, whose world do you live in? Is God a concept, or is God the most real thing? And the world has to be proven
during davening.
Right. It's like, the tzaddikim say that a person has to ask this question to themselves, and they have to give the proper answer. How do you know the world exists? So if the answer is, what do you mean? Well, with my eyes, that's it. That's not a davening, that's not a Yiddishkeit way. The real answer is, because it says in Pasuk, Bereshit bara Elokim, the world exists. So it must be. It must be. That's a Yiddishkeit. So davening is intimately bound with the heart of Yiddishkeit. So it's one of those mitzvahs that we have to be mechanech, but it's very difficult, and it's almost tragic if it's done like this, to educate it, to educate the process of davening, the technicalities of davening, without without it coming along with the essence of Yiddishkeit. Not only is then davening half baked, but then it's like Yiddishkeit suffers. Mm-hmm. Yiddishkeit suffers from it, because davening is
core. This is important.
It's core. It's mamish David HaMelech. It's David HaMelech himself. David HaMelech said, "I am davening." Mm-hmm. David HaMelech is Malchus. It's the Malchus of Hashem in this world. That's what David HaMelech represents. David HaMelech is able to sit in the Beis HaMikdash. Right? No one's allowed to sit in the Beis HaMikdash except for David HaMelech and his descendants and the king of the Davidic line. Because why is that? Because the Beis HaMikdash means Hashem's capital. That's Hashem's Malchus. It's Hashem's Malchus. No? And so what happens? David HaMelech sits in Hashem's Malchus. It means that his Malchus is synonymous with Hashem's Malchus. Mm-hmm. Davening is major like that. But it can be given over to the children on their level. Like I said, to speak, it doesn't start and end by davening. It's throughout the day that we have to make Hashem more real.
It might be a general chinuch question, but like in this localized space, we have like the teenage years and davening a lot of times don't speak to each other. Sometimes they do, and you have someone who's connected to davening even though they're 14 years old. I always thought like 13 years old is a terrible time to start being chayiv in mitzvahs, especially nowadays.
Well,
it's just like a bad age.
God thinks it's okay.
Of God, 100%. 100. It's a challenge you have to get over because nowadays, you're 13 years old. Not only nowadays, you're just like coming into yourself and you're changing and your body's changing and everything's changing and now you got all these mitzvahs. But like davening especially, like it's so part of your day.
Imagine if there was no chinuch. Right, and then the person has mamash
and all of a sudden,
never heard of this
turn it
before.
On.
So Baruch Hashem, we have chinuch from before.
And what do you do when a kid's obviously there's chinuch involved, but you have a kid who's struggling with it. Like as a father, you're looking at your kid. Can you? You're transitioning from the chinuch to this is your job, right? Do you even focus on the technical details, or do you go straight to, okay, maybe you got to start the other direction now? It's like, we gave you the technical details. We had, good 10 years of the technical stuff, what you need to say, and how the sitter works, and what page we're on.
Right.
Okay, but the kid's he's not davening that way, or he's not davening in the typical way. I heard one time someone said, like, what, you're so busy with how he's davening, maybe inside here he's davening, like he's right there with HaKadosh.
Listen, it's a complicated question, and really it's not something that, it's purely, it's an individualized question, how to handle this particular kid and to get him to a place. Listen, there's always, a father's obligation to raise his children. Technically, chinuch is until bar mitzvah, but really, it goes on. Because our responsibility is to make sure that our kids are able to function and to become Avoda Hashem. So maybe at some point in Jewish history, it was enough, 12 years old, 13, you're good. Nowadays, certainly that age has extended. So a parent's responsibility to make sure that their kid is everything that they can become, it's as long as it takes. But because of that, there's always short-term and long-term, So it's like anything in the world, it's like I want, if I have to focus on my child's health long-term, so I do that with long-term. But if right now he's doing something that's extremely dangerous for his health right now, then I have no choice but to jump in and stop this short-term. So there's always, these two sides of things, which is I have to analyze the moment that I'm in right now. Do I swoop in? My objective is not for my own covet. My objective is what is going to be most productive to give my son the ability to become who he has to become. Sometimes that demands taking a step back and figuring out more, derech haruch hashikatzara, more long-term approaches about how to navigate, how to
You're in it for the long game,
right.
And we're going to play this a different way.
Right, but sometimes, like right now, he's doing something that's extremely spiritually destructive or dangerous, then I have to swoop in. If a little kid running across the street, I can't say, listen, it takes time, slowly. The Maisa right now he's running. So it's one of those things that a person has to be sensitive to. But I think the most important thing is that it's not about me. It's about the kid, which is not an easy. It's not an easy thing to wrap our brains around because there's a lot of there's a lot of inyanim. There's ego. There's covet. There's other people looking at me and my family. And there's also like how much time I've put in already, and it's like. It's just frustrating, if I'm putting in all this time and years and you're not, so there's that also. So there's a lot of factors. So it takes a lot of bittul. It's a lot of saying this is not about me.
So it's about him. Start from davening Hashem Svasai Tiftach.
Exactly.
You have to get that message, right?
Right. Women are a little bit, the mothers are a little bit more.
A little smarter.
No, they have, that's why Hashem Svasai Tiftach is Rosh Tevis Eishes, the wife. So women are more naturally inclined to that level of humility to say that it's not about me, it's about what my kid needs, And so what does my kid need? My kid needs to be given the tools and to be put on a trajectory to become a tzaddik. But how do I do that, and what do I do? So there's obviously black and white halacha, but you're talking about already once it's beyond that, how to exactly navigate. So it's long-term, short-term, that depends on the kid. And, I speak to machanchim that... experts in the field, like we talked about last time. You speak to people that know, people that have this idea, but within the person himself, the father, it's certainly humility is to feel like it's about the kid. It's not about me.
Right, and being totally focused on that.
Yeah,
that's your. when you start focusing on that, on doing that,
Right.
you're like, okay,
Yeah. I'll tell you the
we'll
truth
get
also.
there. You know,
Reb Nachman-
I have my own stuff to deal with
Yeah.
inside.
No, for sure. Reb Nachman always said it's always a good, a good idea to know. Reb Nachman said that very often for a person is confused in life what to do. Do you go left? Do you go right? So you need an eitzah. So Reb Nachman said very often in order to have this yad hashmaya to get a good eitzah, the most important thing is to establish for yourself like your North Star. Like what's really navigating me? Like what's my purpose? I want to go left or right. Why do you want? What's forcing you to make this choice? Like where are you going? So Nachman said if a decision of going left or right, and you're only thinking about just to get to that street, but that street itself is going to fork between left and right, so you're just right to confusing yourself. You're not going to be zaycha to eitzah. But if a person really takes a step back and says, okay, why do I want my kid to daven? Why do I want my kid to daven? What do you mean? Because I don't want him to be, I don't want him not to daven. Why not? Like, why do you want your kid to daven? What do you want your kid to be? I want him to be a good erlich. Why? Well, I don't know, because it's not nice if my kid is not an erlich. No, that's not a North Star yet. So you have to really get to the bottom of things. Why do you want your kid to daven? And the reason why you want your kid to daven is ultimately going to also be about why you should be davening too. But once you get that North Star, the eitzes will come.
Mm-hmm.
The eitzes will come. Again, you have to still ask the right people and and speak to people that have that are less negei b'davar, But a person has to have the North Star.
They strip the ego out of it, and all of a sudden,
when you get to the bottom, what do you want? What do you want? Like what's your why? What do you really want? And then you'll be able to. By the way, Rav Nosson says, based on that, he says once you establish your North Star, and you go through whatever normal healthy process as it is to then make the decision, then every decision you're making is then right, because you're trying to get to a good destination, and it is a good destination. And you're asking people that the Rebbeinu Shalom put in your path that's the best you can do, then you are making the right decision. So people agonize over whether they're making the right decisions or not. Well, all you need are two factors. Get your North Star. Why are you even getting involved in this decision making? B'chlal, where are you going? And make sure that North Star is not a confused point. Really.
Real thing.
Number one. And number two, speak to people that that know what they're doing in this particular field as best as possible. And you can only work within, the sphere that you have. You check those two boxes, then you should go confidently and say, this is the right thing. Will it turn out exactly the way I wanted? That doesn't make it not the right thing. Then clearly this is a decision the Rebbeinu Shalom wants me to make, because I know where I'm going. And I was Shal Eitzah with the people that the Rebbeinu Shalom gave me the ability to be Shal Eitzah from. That's it.
You go confident.
That's it. You go with confidence. That's it. And everything else is. And then you throw your hands up and say, Rebbeinu Shalom, okay, let's see what happens. And that's okay. It becomes the right decision.
So someone wants to start working on davening. Would they start from changing their attitude? Meaning,
don't wait for daven.
Don't wait for daven.
Don't wait for daven.
I'm saying it's not. Davening it's like, I don't, not nice words, but like a technical detail is like there's like a seder tefilla
right
that's set up. Obviously, it didn't start out that way.
Right. But again, it boils down to two things. There's a mental preparation and a way of engaging in Yiddishkeit and making the Rebbeinu Shalom more real and more the center of your life that will then help you to daven. But at the end of the day, you have to daven in order to daven. This ultimately, and this is the deepest truth, that ultimately, to be able to be in that place that's called davening, it's a gift from Hashem. It's a gift from Hashem. And so, even going into the Avoda of Davening, thinking that I am going to become a davener, is anti-davening. It itself is anti-davening. So what you have to do is do everything you can to beg and plead of the Rebbeinu Shalom to allow you to become a davener. Because the whole essence of davening is that in Hashem's world. So how counterintuitive, it's not counterintuitive, it's incorrect for a person to say that I am going to enter into Hashem's world and everything is Rebbeinu Shalom and it's all me, right? And like I'm the one, no. So you have to prepare. But the preparation that you have for davening is just that. It's preparing you to receive that gift that's called davening. So you can't wait to daven until you're there. Because the gift of davening is received when you daven. So you have to daven. But there's such a thing as davening that I should daven. Right. They play off each other.
Don't wait for the...
No.
Don't wait for mincha or shachris.
No. But the whole day is preparing for that mincha and shachris. But you can't have mincha and shachris unless you daven mincha and shachris. And then when you stand, and it's like in halach you have an idea of like gitav yadav v'ayin ke'echad, that the ability to receive a gift and the gift itself comes together. So, because again, you have to be uplifted. The world around you has to be turned into that Hashem's universe, and only God can do that. And Hashem gave us the tools to be zoicha to that, and that's called davening. And that's why, that's you mentioned before with the struggle of chinuch, like training a child to do a mitzvah when they're not ready for it yet. That's our struggle too, and it's by its necessity. Again, like I said, you can't be zoicha to shake luv and esrog unless you shake luv and esrog. And then when you shake luv and esrog, the universe of luv and esrog you comes into you b'asachas. And that's why that's ultimately the game changer of how a person should fulfill a mitzvah. Am I performing a mitzvah in a way of like, this is what I'm doing? Well, if this is everything that you're doing, then it's limited in its ability. But if I'm doing a mitzvah, of course, this is what I'm doing. Obviously, I'm putting on tefillin, I'm giving tzedakah, I'm learning, I'm doing something, obviously. But it's for the purpose of allowing myself to receive that gift, which is the mitzvah itself. Mm-hmm. Then all of a sudden, the mitzvah is going to then take me somewhere else. But schar mitzvah. The word of the mitzvah is the mitzvah itself. But a person has to do the mitzvah. So it's they go together. That's why even in halacha, all right, there's a lot to talk about, but Chazal instituted such an idea as birchas and mitzvahs, right? Before you do a mitzvah, you say a bracha, tefillin, whatever, Shabbos, whatever the bracha is. But it's interesting is that, so we would think that's a hachana for the mitzvah. And I was like, preparing myself to make a bracha, and then I'm doing the mitzvah. But in halacha, it's not like that. In halacha, the bracha of the mitzvah is, it's part of the mitzvah itself. Rabbinically speaking, the mitzvah has now been expanded to contain the bracha itself, because the mitzvah, the mitzvah, you can't prepare for a mitzvah unless you're doing the mitzvah, unless you're already in the mitzvah.
At the same time,
it's the same thing. It's the same inyan. Like you cannot have you have to receive. You have to be turned into a davener because you're davening. And the only one that can turn you into a davener is the Rebbeinu Shalom, and he said, so daven. And then you'll be turned into a davener. So I forget I keep saying I, right? But like I'm saying there's no I, right? In this world of davening. Okay. It's like, a person's changing and they're going through. There is an I, it's just
just
one I.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So a person's changing, they change themselves through davening. They accomplish the mission, that they accomplish it.
Sure.
How does the person that's sick get better? Meaning the person, I'm davening for someone who's sick to get better. How does it affect the change in the universe? I've changed myself. I've changed internally, my alignment. I'm changing the rest of my day also. It is as an effect that, is being affected by that. Mm-hmm. Okay, but how does that affect the parnasa coming, or the person who's sick, or Yerushalayim being rebuilt? It's more important to me, and I exist in a world where that's Hashem's the address. Hashem, that's all just Hashem. So how does it affect the change in other things?
Wherever Hashem is found, any any address that's found in Hashem's neighborhood, all of a sudden has a new fresh set of paint, and the grass is greener. By uplifting the world and by changing the location that planet Earth is found in, by saying that, it's not found on whatever it's not Main Street, it's Rebbeinu Shalom Street, it's Rechav Yudke Vavke, whatever. By doing that, then all of a sudden everything that until now was deficient and broken and not functioning properly, automatically now has to function properly because it's part of Hashem's world and Hashem is perfect. By uplifting everything, by bringing everything back to its source, by reconnecting everything back to the original manufacturer, then everything blossoms. Everything blossoms. If God forbid a person is sick, or any deficiency, any chisaron, that's just a siman of that particular location not being perceived as part of Hashem's world. Because if it's part of Hashem's world, then it's perfect. And to whatever degree it's not perceived like that, it means there's something missing in our relationship in terms of davening about it. By davening about something. But there's more to talk about because it's all different, everything we're talking about over here is when davening can be done with a certain level of presence of mind. Mm-hmm. There is another form of davening which we don't have time to get into this, a davening which is like raw and just yelling and screaming and an expression of your desire. There is a place for that type of davening, but we're talking about a certain type of davening which is more relatable to the structured,
more structured.
Because it's important. I know I interrupted my train of thought myself, but I think it's an important point to recognize that there are two different types of davening. There is the more structured type of davening, the Shachris Mincha Ma'ariv, which really demands this type of approach of okay, I'm entering into that place with a certain calmness and a certain objective mentally that this is what I'm going to try to do. And that's literally what you do. So if you're davening for a particular person, then what you do is that you think about that person. I'm just giving an example. You could think about that person and say, listen, the person's sick. Why is that person sick? Not why, what did he do wrong? The nature of his sickness is that somehow, in some way, the Rebbeinu Shalom's light is not fully pulsating within him the way it should be. Why not? Not because of anything he did wrong. In terms of what does it say about me? What's my avoda when I see someone that's sick? Well, my avoda is that if I see someone that's sick, it means the Rebbeinu Shalom is telling me there's a part of my universe as Hashem that you have to return to me. And so when I daven for that person, I'm thinking what? That there's something, he's unfortunately not well, which is Hashem telling me that there's a corner of this world that I am obligated to return to its source, to return to its master.
I have to do.
That's something that I have to do.
And everyone who davens for them, they each have their own.
Yes.
They have to do.
Yes.
They have to.
Everything you see, anything that's missing, that's broken in the world, is Hashem telling you, fix it. And the way to fix it is all different ways. If you're a doctor, obviously, help the guy. But in terms of davening, the way to fix it is to say that Yankov over there and the universe that Yankov lives in, it's not his universe, it's the Rebbeinu Shalom's universe. And somehow, in some way, the Rebbeinu Shalom is perfect. And everything on some level, in some way, is good and perfect and healthy. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing that health. And so then I take the next step, which is Rebbeinu Shalom, for your own sake, let the truth of what the world is, let it be seen and let it be known. Because and this is what it means. This is the depth of what it means when Chazal say that a person has to daven for the Shechina, for the divine presence. Because the divine presence means the fact that the world, that in the headspace of davening, the world is in Hashem's place. And it means that means that it should be seen as perfect. And the fact that I don't see it as perfect means that it's not allowing, that the truth is not expressing itself. That's painful. That itself is painful. People experience this psychologically all the time. If there's a certain truth that they have and they're not able to express it, it's painful for them. So Hashem has a truth. The truth is that Yankel is healthy. That's the deepest truth, that Yankel is healthy. Because Yankel's not living in his world, which maybe is broken. Yankel's living in the Rebbeinu Shalom's world, which is perfect. So why don't I see that perfection? That's because there's something holding back the truth. And that's painful. That's painful most of all to the one being that is the truth.
It's like the Shechina is in Galus. That's
what
how
it
the
means.
Chazal.
That's what it means. The Shechina means Hashem's presence in the world. The fact that we don't see
obviously
the truth.
That's the truth that's there.
And that's ultimately that. So it's like a few stages. So like, first of all, number one, I see the person that's not feeling well. Number one, that tells me the Rebbeinu Shalom is telling me, fix that space. That's number one. Number two, I then say, despite the fact that it looks like this space that person's occupying is his own world, governed by Hashem, created by Hashem, but his own space, it's not true. Hashem, you were there before creation, you're there after creation. This address is the Rebbeinu Shalom's universe. Number three, if it's the Rebbeinu Shalom's universe, the Rebbeinu Shalom is perfect, and if the Rebbeinu Shalom is encompassing that space, it means that this space has to be mamish alive and well. Number four, I don't see it like that. So that means that there's something blocking our vision from what the actual truth is. Rebbeinu Shalom, for your sake, remove that veil. Allow the ultimate truth of what is really going on behind the scenes to be experienced. Not for us, it will be Gevaldik, Vada, but for the Rebbeinu Shalom, for your sake. Because you created a world. Why do you create a world? In order for you to be revealed through it. And what does it mean for Hashem to be revealed in the world? For things to be healthy and well. And that's what it boils down to. So you go through these stages of sort of, and this is by the Mekubalim, this is described as the Avoda of being mamtik dinim, of sweetening judgments. A judgment means a piece of the world that's disconnected, that's off target, that's broken. But you're sweetening that judgment by returning it back to its source, and that's and then you do that in whatever you do that in your own life. You know, a person's deficient in parnasa. You go through the same processes. Well, that just is a siman that there's an area of my life that needs to be brought back to its source, and if it's brought back to its source, then it should be overflowing with shafa.
Incredibly empowering, also, to know that. I mean, it's a big job.
Sure.
But it's empowering that Hashem says you're the one who has to do it. 100%. You got to go do it, and I need you. I need you involved in this. And this is incredible. Okay, we'll probably have to talk about. There's a lot of this could go a lot of different directions. Probably have to talk about when Hashem says, when it seems like Kadosh Baruch Hu says no.
Yeah, sure.
And where you go with that in your mind.
Sure,
but,
sure.
Maybe we'll save it. Maybe we'll save it for another time.
For sure. Now we should go daven.
Everything's a tefillah.
There you now.
It really is.
Now you got it.
It really
now
is.
You got it.
It really is.
Now you got it. Exactly.
I always thought like the most important words of davening, at least structured davening, it's the Rebbe's pointing out something much earlier, but Hashem's fasai tiftach, that like I got nothing. I got nothing. I mean, Hashem, just this is up to you, right? This is up to you.
Yeah.
Have like a meditation, like when you take 3 steps forward, you're stepping into Hashem's world.
100%.
You alluded
it's
to it.
It's a huge thing. Yeah.
To be able to visualize that, like I'm stepping into a whole different place. It's like
that's the difference, by the avoid of big tzaddikim. That's what it is. It's going into different places. It's like mamash,
I wish I would have listened in school when they said these beautiful things. Because they for sure said, take 3 steps towards Hashem, or take 3 steps into the world of Hashem. Like, I had great teachers. They for sure said this. I had great rabbi. Like, I wish I would have listened. Okay, it's good. Okay, play catch up. Look, play catch up. Play catch up. It's like, it's like, But these are the messages you need to hear. This is stuff. This is it. It's like also like when they're not just halacha is not just playing a game with your life. Like, raise your hand this way, raise your hand this way. It's like putting you in a certain place. Like, here it's physically putting you in a whole different world, and they're telling you do it with your body. Like do it with your body, and then experience it in your mind and in your heart. And like, I mean, when you chop that, all of a sudden halacha becomes much more important.
Of course.
The technical detail, what they call the technical details.
Of course.
What do you mean the technical? They're putting you somewhere. They're giving it's reality.
So the guy wants to get somewhere, so I don't know. So he has to go on the train to go there. It's like, it's just a technicality. That's how you go. That's how you go.
Right. Yeah. If only they told you the direction that you shake the lulav. That's what you're trying to go somewhere. It's like you're trying to bring something into your life. You're trying to.
Right.
And there's differences in the way you look at it and the direction you shake. And it's like everything is like
right.
I remember learning about the Hanukkah lights up to more to less to more by Reb Yussie. Where he talks about kedusha and exposing the world to kedusha.
Right.
So you have to be very careful with it, or you have to bring it out to the whole world. It's like, but
it's
different ways of looking at the world. Like, right, exactly.
I'm shot like this, it's a
different way, and then it comes out in the Tanaim and the Amoraim. It's like different ways of looking at the world.
Right.
Even when you get later in halacha, I've heard you talk about you get to the Rishonim and stuff like that. It's incredible.